It is my pleasure to introduce the four dynamic women you see on this stage. First, a woman who I am sure is familiar to many in this room, Matina Kolokotronis, Chief Operating Officer of the Sacramento Kings. Prior to serving as COO, Matina was the President of Business Operations and President, both CEO and President of Business Operations. Her leadership extends beyond the Kings organization and into the community, where she is dedicated mentor and advocate for numerous women's and advancement groups and nonprofits, including SheShares. Additionally, Matina is a proud mom of her 3 adult children. Give it up for Matina. Next, we have Lindsey Harden, the head coach of the Stockton Kings, a former WNBA and collegiate player who has spent the previous 4 seasons with the Sacramento Kings as an assistant coach and a player development coach. Prior to her time in Sacramento, Lindsey was a professional scout for the club during the 2018-19 season. Lindsey is also an experienced international coach, leading the Mexican women's senior national team and the South Sudan's women's senior national team. And Kayte Christensen, Sacramento Kings TV game analyst, who is on her 14th season with the Sacramento Kings. Kayte has also served as a color analyst for the Phoenix Mercury and women's college basketball on ESPN. She's played 6 seasons in the WNBA as a fan favorite and played internationally in South Korea, Turkey, Russia, and Greece. The California native is a proud mom of 2 young children. Here to moderate this conversation is Ashley Williams, an anchor for CBS 13 and Good Day Sacramento on KMAX, who has been working for the network for more than a decade. She's an Elk Grove native and graduate of Sacramento State. Ashley, I'll let you take it from here.
Are we on? Can you guys hear me? Okay, perfect. I'm excited to be here today, or tonight, I should say. The moment I got the email asking to moderate this panel, zero hesitation. And I'll tell you, for Matina, I know your name. I know one of your sons, actually. But I also know you just as...
Everybody knows.
Not like that. Not like that. I know you just as a boss, and we'll just keep it right there. And then, Lindsey, for you, as a fan of the Kings, watching you just on the bench, your presence... I mean, if you guys remember her when she was just with the Kings, it was such a big deal to see you on that bench, you know. And then Kayte, I always say there's De'Aaron Fox, and then there's Kayte. You're basically on the roster, right? All right, let's just get started, guys. All right, let's start from the beginning for each of you. What inspired each of you to pursue a career in this field?
Obviously, I didn't play like these ladies. But first of all, I want to take a moment to thank you, Ashley. That was very kind, and Daisy, and everybody for being here today. I just love it, all these women coming together and sharing our stories. So for me, I didn't obviously pick the career like superstars here. It kind of picked me, and I'm a lawyer by trade, and my daughter's here, Marissa, my second child. And when I was pregnant with my 3rd child, I got a call that would change my life. I'm a lawyer, and Jeff Petrie, who was the general manager of the Sacramento Kings, called me and told me that they had drafted a player. Mind you, at the time, I was about 7 months pregnant with my 3rd child, and I was home watching Oprah on maternity leave, living my best life. And he said that they had drafted a player and that they really wanted me to work on the contract. They asked me, you know, I know you're a lawyer, and I know you speak Greek. Greek school paid off. And I'm a little impulsive, and I can't sit still, so I thought it would be a great opportunity, and I jumped right into it. And that has led to a 28-year career with the Sacramento Kings. So.
No.
Oh, there you go.
Hello? You got me?
Gotcha.
Real quick, who run the world?
Girls.
There you go, I like that. So everyone always thinks that when they see my career, or at least as a coach, that this is something that I've always wanted to do. It was not. I wanted to play basketball and I wanted to play in the WNBA. And I don't know how many of you guys followed the WNBA or are huge fans of the WNBA, but when it first started, the first 4 championships were the Houston Comets. And at that time, I was growing up in Houston, and I was a 12, 13-year-old girl who never played basketball. So my father took me to games, and I remember going to the arena and seeing these women, seeing all these people, sold-out crowd, just to see these women. I'd never seen anything like that, and I said, I want to do that. I want to be and play in the WNBA. So, like, that was my first big love. Well, first was track, because I wanted to be FloJo. But then I went to basketball. But that was, like, my love, and to play and to have the opportunity to play in the WNBA. That's brought me internationally to play all over the world. So, like, I love it. But my first thought was I wanted to work in the front office. I actually wanted to take the role of, you know what, I want to be a GM one day, possibly, we'll see. But I never really thought NBA. I never thought that this was even a path or a career to have. And I worked in the league office for about a year, and there's a basketball operations associates program that they put together for former players. And I had the opportunity to learn how the NBA works and meet people, right? Because a lot of people hire people they know. And so I had a lot of time, a whole year, to network with a lot of people. And I got my first job in the NBA with the Philadelphia 76ers as a pro personnel scout. So I traveled around and letting you guys know when you walk into this arena and you're looking for your badge, they're like, oh, media's over there. I'm like, I'm not with media, I'm in the scout line. They're like, oh yeah, the cheerleaders are over there. Yeah, I've had that too. And then it's like, oh, well, we never really had a female scout, right? So now there's a ton that go out there and scout, but that was my first role. And then from there, they had a player development job open up and asked if I wanted to coach. And I was like, no, I don't want to coach. And they said, come on. A lot of people in the front office cannot go back to coaching, but as coaches can go up to the front office if that's what you want to do. So I stepped on the floor. I loved it, got interviewed by the Sacramento Kings, got the job, and I've been here ever since. And so to have the opportunity to be now a head coach and coaching men is something that, 10 years ago, I didn't think was even possible. And I don't even think I really even wanted or knew. So I'm very thankful to be here. I'm thankful for the support of this organization, because this organization, I don't think you guys know, has hired probably the most women in powerful positions, especially on the basketball side. And so people who know that probably are not really surprised at them giving me this opportunity, but maybe the rest of the league and everyone is. So I'm just very thankful to be here and to have this opportunity to coach this team.
Yeah, I think pretty much kind of the same. It's basketball has become a tool to take me to a place that I never envisioned. The league started, I'm older than you, right? I'm older.
Are we going to talk
The
about
league,
age?
I mean, yeah, a lot. We crossed over a little bit, but yeah, I'm a lot older than you. We can't lie about our age because you can just Google it. It's on there now. That's what playing in the WNBA does for you. Except for, I will say this, they lied about my weight my rookie year. So I'm more that weight now than I was then. But anyway, so the league started when I was a junior in high school, and I come from a really small farming community in Northern California. And there's 5 kids in my family, and I'm the only kid that went to college, and basketball for me was a tool to pay for my education. And I had zero interest of playing in the WNBA. I wanted to become a college professor. I wanted to continue my education, and I wanted to teach. And I studied classical civilizations. I wanted to teach Greek mythology. So a lot of people choose that path, by the way. I don't know if you know that. It's a very demanding, like very hard to get into. But no, I ended up getting drafted, and I was like, okay, well, I guess you don't say no to that kind of thing. And I went to camp, and I had no no notion of like actually making a roster, get to the final day of cuts. And I'm like, when are they going to tell us if we made the team? And one of the veterans looked at me, she's like, you're here, aren't you? And I was like, oh, so I guess now I'm in the WNBA. And like, just over here, like, ooh, I planned this, you know? And then like, right as my career was kind of ending, I had an injury that ended my career. I got a call from the director of broadcasting for the Kings and was like, would you be interested in applying for this open position doing a studio show, pre-half, post-game show? And I was like, okay, like, I've never really done it. I'll give it a go. I went to an open call with like 200 people in LA, and they gave me a 1-year contract, which if you work in this world means they have this much confidence in you. And here I am all these years later, and I will say kind of the same thing as Lindsey, just to reiterate it. Like, this organization has been beyond everyone else in terms of the opportunities that they have made available for women for so long. Like, before it was even a thing. Like, this was the support that you get as a woman in this industry, which is so male-dominated. We are very fortunate. I mean, luck had it that this is the career path that I ended up taking, and it was just randomly wanting to get my education paid for, opened up a career that I never could have envisioned. So I'm very fortunate.
I know you guys have a lot of questions already, right? We're going to save that for the very end. Just keep me on track if we can. So this next question, Matina, is for you. And I want to kind of lead into this question by saying all of these things emphatically. You are the only woman in the NBA to hold both President of Business Operations and COO titles. Let's give that a round of applause because that's amazing. You've been a trailblazer in the NBA, and the league has made tremendous progress. But what more would you like to see? And then I'll follow up with a few more questions after that.
More of this. So I think when I first started in the NBA, I walked into a room of 30 owners, male, and 29 male presidents, and the entire league was male. So I definitely, it was 28 years ago. We didn't have conversations like this, and you just kind of put your head down, you did your work. And like thinking back, it was uncomfortable at times because diversity matters and opinions matter, and everybody there was the same. And I was like the one thing that didn't look like the others. Now, I will say that David Stern was amazing and had my back, and yet I did walk into many rooms into, stunned silence, and I would say something like, oh, if you're trashing your wives, keep going at it, or something like to kind of break the ice. But it was always, like, it wasn't easy. And I think that we can have these conversations now. And then it was important to me that the organization hire more minorities and hire more females. And I've made a concerted effort over the years. So this, to me, we need more of this. Our organization has 40% of our women in leadership. Let's get it to 50. And, Lindsey is a trailblazer, and so is Kayte. I mean, we have so many good stories to tell in our organization and more of it. And I think for me, it was really hard because there wasn't many people that I looked to and I thought, oh, I can do that. But I think that we're different now. It's not good enough. Especially in basketball operations, we've made tremendous strides in business, but we really need to push that envelope.
You actually already answered this second half, but I'll go ahead and ask it just in case there's one more thing. But what has changed in the 26 years you've spent in the sports industry?
I think acceptance and having the ability to have these conversations and not shy away from them. Like a lot of times, I think that, Lindsey, you're in the room, and it's not easy in the locker room, and you stand out as the only female. And I was the same way, and now I feel like we should have more because it makes a difference. And Kayte, you also are trailblazer in what you're doing, and I think that's why the organization stands out because we push that narrative, and we need more of it.
All right, Lindsey, next one's for you. This is a two-part question here, and you kind of already tapped into it, but tell us just a little bit about your journey from college basketball to the WNBA to then, of course, coaching the Kings and now, obviously, the Stockton Kings.
So I wanted to go to the WNBA, but I forgot to say when I was so excited about wanting to play in the WNBA, this little 12, 13-year-old girl, my parents were like, yeah, they all went to college. So that was my focus. Like, can I go get a scholarship and play in college? And I was lucky enough, I had a scholarship at Duke University, and I played there and didn't win a championship. Still bitter about that. Went to a few Final Fours. But my mind still was, well, let me reverse. Okay, I wasn't one of the top players coming through high school. Like they have these McDonald's All-American games or these Nike All-American games that are seen as the best, and I wasn't invited to any of those. So when I got to Duke and I was playing, my focus was maybe I'll go back to school, get my MBA, go on the business side of sports. That was like kind of my focus until kind of what happened to you. They're like, hey, teams are talking. You may get drafted. And then my senior year, I got really, really good. Then got really good and got drafted. So yeah, so that was my focus, is just playing, and then those years were just enjoying. And for most of you that probably know, the WNBA is about 5 months, and then the rest of the time we tend to go overseas to play because we get paid far more money overseas. So we live in Russia or Turkey or anywhere around the world for half the time. So when you think about it, 10 years of playing professionally, about 7 months out of those years I was overseas playing. So huge sacrifice from your family. You miss everything. Like you miss so much, right? But I'm so thankful for the opportunity because I don't know how to travel like a tourist. It's not like you go to France and they're like, oh, you're in this resort. It's like, here's your key, your car, your apartment, and there's the gym, right? So you learn how to really live and move and learn more about yourself when you travel. So I love that with basketball. But like I said before, I didn't know I wanted to coach. It just kind of like fell in my lap a little bit. And it all came from just wanting to play basketball.
But I will say, she has a brilliant mind for it. I mean, I
I don't really need this, but I'm being.
She really does have a brilliant mind for it. So one of the great things about traveling on the road with Lindsey, and I'm going to miss her this year because she's going to be with the Stockton Kings and maybe with us sometimes, but not every game like before. We had kind of had our little woman crew on the road, which I was so used to. There was never a woman when I traveled before. I traveled with all men all the time, and now there's so many women when you travel on the road, and so it's so nice. You have such an opportunity to get to know the people that you work with, and so, but it also means that we share a locker room. They have to provide a locker room for females at arenas, and so it's like Lindsey and I are in there, Shannon, Mel, like all these women that travel and are with the team, and so she's always in there working. She's always in there looking at the edits and getting her scout ready and all this stuff. So like it's crazy because I want to pay you the compliment. Not every player has the mind for that, and you have the mind for it. So I'm so excited for you.
Yeah. Thank you, Kayte. I'm going to jump back to this other half of the question because it's important. What does it mean to you to be the first woman of color head coach in the NBA G League? Yeah.
I remember being asked a question before. All of you probably know Becky Hammon, who was the first female to pretty much be on the front of the bench in the NBA. And then she coached one game in the NBA as a head coach. And everyone came to me, and at first they were like, how do you feel? Does that give you inspiration? And part of me is like, yeah, it's great. It's great to see her get that opportunity, not because she's a woman, because she deserves it. But you also sit there, and I'm like, no one that's looked like me has ever done that. No one that looks like me has ever been on the front of the bench, has ever been a head coach. No one has done that. So when you say those things, I don't think about it until I hear it again. And I remember that feeling of just for a second of just like, oh, not like I can't do it, but just like I just have never seen it. So it's powerful. It's good. I understand the responsibility behind it. I want more of us. Like Matina says, I want more of us. So I can't just do a good job. I have to do a great job. And I understand that, and I know what comes with that. So it is important. I don't think about it. I'm just doing my job, and I think just me working hard and doing my job will be enough, hopefully to get a ring.
I hope
You're
so.
going to get a ring. They're going to get a ring.
I hear you.
All right, thank you. All right, Kayte, we kind of tapped into it, but take us through the journey from college, WNBA, and then just the top broadcaster ever.
So very different path to it from Lindsey. Obviously, she shared hers. Like, she saw it. I went to one ABL game, like in Portland, Oregon. Yeah. So I told you I was older than you. And it was before that league folded, and I think Natalie Williams was actually on that team. I just didn't think it was ever possible. First of all, like, for where I came from, like, I grew up on a cattle ranch. Like, going to college was impossible. You know what I mean? Like, the WNBA or playing professionally as a woman, totally different. And so I didn't play, like, AAU, like, finally, I think before my junior year. And that's really how you get to the WNBA. That's how you get to college is you have to kind of play, and everyone knows. No one's a secret anymore. I was a secret. No one knew who the hell I was or where I was from. And my high school basketball coach played college football, and so he's like, well, I got to get these girls seen. We had a ridiculously good team. We won state. No one knew. Like, they would call and be like, how do we get to your gym from the airport? First of all, how did you get a plane? Because the only thing that comes in here is crop dusters. Like, you go to Main Street and you take a left, and by the end of it, you'll hit our high school. And so, you know, it was a different path for me. Like, my community where I grew up fundraised for us to travel and play AAU basketball. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like, you know, 40 schools are calling me, and they're, you know, coaches and recruiting, and I'm like, I have school, like, I have volleyball, like, I'm busy right now. I can't believe y'all are calling this much. It was like I didn't know anything about conferences. I didn't know anything about college sports at all. I just knew I wanted a college education. So the path for me to get here has been so different. I didn't start watching the NBA until I was in the WNBA. And so it's like, so the job that I do now, and there's so many great broadcasters in our business, and I'll listen to them, and they're going back, oh, you know, like 60 years ago, and I'm like, I can't even really go back 20 years ago. Like, that's my experience level to, like, the NBA, but I can talk basketball, and I understand it. And I think for me, the biggest thing in my job is to be authentic. I don't ever try to be anybody other than who I am. And I think as a woman, that's a really important tool to have. Because I think a lot of times, especially when you're a woman in a man's world, you get a little bit of imposter syndrome, I think, where you get the opportunity and you're like, oh God, I don't belong here. I don't belong here. And so for me, it's always been like remembering where I came from, that everybody's story and path is different, and like who I am at my core is all I need to be. That for me in my job, I'm not trying to be anybody else. Try to be true to myself. And when I'm talking on TV, like, I want people to feel like they actually know me, because, like, think about Charles Barkley, right? Everybody think like, wow, Chuck is so funny. Like, I know him. That's exactly who he is. Like, who you see on TV with him is who he is. I'm like, I want people to know that, like, that's me. I'm gonna say some goofy stuff. I'm gonna laugh at my own jokes. And I also, you know, take my job really seriously, so.
Do you guys all? I feel that when I watch her. I'm like, oh, I know her. We're best friends. I do think that. But this is a perfect segue. This is going to be for Lindsey and Kayte. You mentioned imposter syndrome, obviously. Tell me, what's it like working in a male-dominated industry, but then making sure that your voice is heard? What have you had? What do you do just to ensure all of that? Make sure your contributions are in fact recognized.
So it was interesting when Daisy was introducing us and going through our bios. It always feels uncomfortable. It always feels uncomfortable when someone's talking about me, my accomplishments. It's just like a little uncomfortable. And when you're in a space with men, they like that.
Yeah, they're not uncomfortable
Boy,
at all.
you tell them the stuff that they can do, and you know, they like that. There's a job opening, I'm going for it. I mean, you know what? My contract is over. I'm asking for more money. Do I deserve it? Nope, but I'm gonna ask for it. So it's like, no, I'm just being real. Like, they don't apologize. They just do it. And I think as women, we apologize all the time. And it's like, we worry. A big part of my job, we have to speak up when we say things. I did a third of the scouts. Of 82 games, I did a third. And I had to stand up and I had to present something. And one thing about Coach Brown, if it is your scout, he doesn't care what anyone says but what you say. So he'll look at me, Lindsey, who's this guy? What does he do, huh? And he's looking at you, and you better give him an answer, right? So you have to learn to have that confidence. But I just remember one time, it was early on, and I wanted to say something, I didn't. It was in my first couple years, and I was just like, and I just didn't say it. I saw the defense. I was like, we need to change defense. We need to change defense. And I just didn't say anything. And then 2 minutes, 3 minutes go by. We changed the defense, and it worked. And I'm just like, dang it, I knew it, you know? And I just had to remember, and I say this not to be cocky, but confident, with what I've done, I'm like, I'm the most accomplished player, current or former, in that building. I'm being 100% serious. And I had to like tell myself that to be able to speak in that way, because the players, they know. They were like, they're ready to go, and no one's thinking anything. So for me, I had to kind of tell myself that, and then once you just do it and realize, I do know basketball, I do know what I'm talking about, it just kind of flows and goes. Like, I think when you're around good people and men that do support you, they're gonna uplift you, right? So I've been lucky to be around that.
I know this is kind of the point of what we're doing today, but I need all y'all to take that energy to work tomorrow, because that was beautiful. All right,
So,
Kayte, same for you.
yeah, I've been really fortunate, not even just with the Kings as an organization, but we're also now affiliated with NBC Sports. So I've been working with the same producer, director, EVS guy, which does the replays that you see, and the graphics guy, which everything you see that is written on the screen. I've worked with these same 4 people basically since I got here in 2006, and they are tremendous human beings. They are men that have lifted me up like no other. And I think that's one of the really important things that for me is that women, our job is to lift each other up. We need to lift each other up. But man, it's okay when there are men that see your value and they lift you up. It's the best feeling. It's the best feeling. And I feel like I've been really lucky in that sense in terms of coming into a very male-dominant world. I'll tell you 2 things. When I first started working, like I said, I had no experience. So the producer on the pregame show was like, okay, we're gonna do a run through of the first segment, and we'll just make sure that everything's going well. Like basically, they're like, you don't know what you're doing, so let's see that if you can get through a rehearsal. Well, when you work in live television, no one rehearses. Like, and by the way, if you do, it's always horrible. People that do live television, if you ask them to rehearse something, it's horrendous. But as soon as the lights come on, it's like it moves very smoothly. But so we're doing the rehearsal, and I've been doing this job for like 5 minutes, and I worked with 2 other men, and I will not name names. We do the rehearsal, and it was like everything's good. We go to live air, and the other guy I was working with took everything that I said. I'm like, I looked at him like, you have got to be kidding me.
We know
you didn't come up with that on your own. That is not your thoughts. That is my thoughts from our rehearsal, and you just stole all my stuff. And so I learned after that very first rehearsal that I didn't say what I was going to say during rehearsal. So I learned that with that particular man, that sometimes they will steal your thoughts. But the other thing is like, so it's interesting. You asked Lindsey about being the first woman of color in her position. And all of us, our experiences are different. When I got the job as the color analyst in the booth 2 years ago, at that time, there was 2 of us in the NBA that did it full time. 2 women. I was the second woman. There's another woman, Ann Myers-Drysdale, who, by the way, is a Hall of Fame player. She's amazing. She does part of the schedule for the Phoenix Suns. There's other women that work in it, but to do a full schedule, I was only the second one. And people ask me that question, like, what does it feel like that, like, wow, you're one of only 2? And sometimes it's hard because I don't see the world through those lenses sometimes, and I don't realize how special it is. And then when they asked, I kind of got angry because I'm like, damn, I can't wait until that's not a question anymore. Can't wait until how does it feel to be, one of only a couple or the first? Like, I can't wait for women until that is not even a question that would cross people's mind. So when you work in a man's world, sometimes we've been fortunate. We have such supportive men around us, Coach Brown, people on the TV side for me. And it's great. Sometimes we forget kind of what it's like on the other side, and you get little reminders. So we're lucky, but we also know there's a lot more work to do.
Well, confession, Kayte, I take what you say every night and I go back to work the next day and act like I know what I'm talking about. I do. I'll make sure to do my homework extra. Perfect. All right, Lindsey, this one's for you. How do you approach your role in developing talent and helping players reach their full potential?
Big question. She's like, are you going to develop them? I go through my experience. A lot of it is just coming from being a former player a lot of the time. It's such a short career. And a lot of these guys, and most of them that I've worked with have been younger, like in the first year, second, third year, letting them know that this could be gone tomorrow, It doesn't matter if you were a first-round pick or not drafted at all. Are you the perfect fit? Are you working hard enough? Are you improving? And we have people in the front office who are measuring every single thing. Are you getting stronger? Are you getting faster? Did you slow down? Is your shooting percentage better? I mean, they track every single thing. So, you don't want to scare a poor kid to death, but you want them to continue to have the drive that got them here. And also let them know that even though they might have been all world where they came from, your role might be just to shoot the ball in the corner, don't do anything else. Like, just be amazing at that, and that's going to give you an amazing contract next year. That's exactly what we need. So, for one, it's having a clear understanding from our front office to head coach to what this particular player needs to do now, what his potential is, and what they see for them in the future. Talking to them about it, also hearing back. To me, I think it's important for players to talk about what it is they want to do, what kind of player they want to become. What do you want to work on this summer, so they can have that kind of ownership? And then we do it every single day, right? And then a lot of that is not just on the court, it's through film. We travel so much, we have so many games, you don't have time to practice. So you sit down and you're watching clips and watching film, and they have to learn through that too. So and that's something to understand. A lot of people can't just learn all the time by watching, but we just have to figure it out. So it's having that clarity, letting them see it, and also seeing the good things, the bad things, and their improvement as they go. And hopefully over time, when they are improving, they're getting more of the playing time, and coaches seeing it and talking about it.
All right, Matina, you ready? Matina and Kayte, this one's for you. Both working moms, beautiful mothers. How are you able to balance such a demanding schedule, of course, working for an NBA team and then being a mom?
Well, now my children are older, so it's a lot easier. But when they were young, it was a challenge. I went to work I started working when I was pregnant with Nicholas, my youngest, and I had a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. And I remember when Jeff Petrie had asked me to negotiate Paige's contract, who incidentally wasn't Greek, he was Serbian, but that's another story. So,
Greek transplant.
yeah, Greek transplant, but it was a process. But I just remember like the first couple of calls that we had, I got the contracts, I translated them, we were just humming along, and then Jeff Petrie was like, "Let's come to the practice facility," and I thought to myself, Jesus, I haven't told this guy I'm pregnant. So I was like, well, there's nothing I can do about it, right? So I'm just going to show up. And I thought, maybe I should tell him before, but I didn't say anything. And I walked in, and I thought Jeff Petrie just he didn't know what to say. He was startled. He was like, "Are you hungry?" And I was like, "No, I'm not. I'm fine. This is like my third." He's like, "This is your third child?" I think the guy was like, "What the?" But, in those days, it took a lot. I don't believe, when I got really mad when Lean In came in, because I think if you lean in too much, you break. And I'm more of it's a give and take. It takes a village to raise children. If you're going to work full time, you need support. As my daughter will tell you, I'm overstaffed, right? I had a nanny, I had help, but you can't do it all. Something has to give. Sometimes I can't work out as much as I want to, or my girlfriends will tell you I'm not available when I'm on the road, or So, and also like, there's times when I remember once went to my first NBA meeting, and it was so incredible. I got to like sit next to Michael Jordan, and I got to talk to David Stern. I just was so full of myself, and I was like, oh, I'm doing it all. And then like my phone kept ringing. I'm like, what is going on? And it was Nicholas, my youngest, and he's like, Mom, you took my soccer shoes with you. And I had locked his soccer shoes in my car at the airport, and I felt so bad. And he had a game. He was like, this was like when he was in 6th grade. I was like, oh my God, I feel terrible. I mean, can you wear your brother's? Like, he's 4 years older than you. So we had to like, get him soccer shoes. So it's been a process, and it's not easy. And I have, a lot of women that work for me, and I try to be extra, to understand what they're going through, because you need support at home, family, friends, juggling stuff. When I look back on it right now, I don't know how I did it. I just did it because I had to do it. I wish that I had been told that it's going to be okay and you're going to drop balls and you just keep going. And I hope that I've set a good example for my children. I have missed things that I did not want to miss, and sometimes I wonder how I got to where I am, because definitely I feel like I had more in me sometimes at work that I just, so it's a process, and take your time, and know that nobody's perfect, and you will not be able to do everything.
Oh, yeah. Whew. Yeah. So you had a mom guilt moment with the soccer shoes. I think we have a lot of those, but I think every mom that works has those, right? Like our jobs are no different than anyone else. I think the amount of travel that I do specifically is a challenge. My daughter just turned 5 last week, and she's in kindergarten. And so, full disclosure here, it's a little bit of a different situation. I'm divorced, so I get her half the time, and her dad is a firefighter, so I get her every 3.5 days. So her world changes so frequently. And so I can be gone on a trip and miss my 3.5 days with her, but what it really means is I miss 10 days with her, because I don't get her when I get back. So I struggle personally with kind of feeling bad. Last year, she struggled with the season for the first time, because she's old enough to kind of understand like that I'm not here, and like what's going on, and why are you gone for like a week and a half? Like, why aren't you here? Why do you have to go to work at night? But you just kind of get through it, and like I'm really fortunate that I get the off seasons off. So all of my time goes into my daughter, almost to the detriment of like, I don't take a girls trip, I don't do anything, because I'm like, no, I'm gone so much during the season, like I can't justify it. But I will share a really, really special moment that I had that I think maybe a lot of people can probably relate to. I was getting my daughter back. It was an afternoon game, so it was like a 12:30 game, which is very random. We don't have very many of those. My dad was in town to help me because I was about to leave on a trip, so he was there. My ex-husband was bringing my daughter back to me at the game outside the arena. I run out at halftime and grab her really fast, bring her in for my dad, because my dad can't find his way out of a bathroom stall. So I couldn't be like, okay, Dad, go to the loading dock, and they're gonna let you out. So it was chaos, right? And come back in, and I hadn't seen her, and she just collapsed in tears when I like handed her to my dad, and I went back to my booth like to call the game. Like the game was starting, like the second half was starting. And so my dad's kind of holding her, and he's kind of the old school, like let a kid cry, And so I'm doing my job. He's behind me. My child is screaming bloody murder. I can hear her through my headsets. And like that mom feeling that you get that is just like, oh my God, I have to help my child. I have to help my child. Well, we're broadcasting a game. So the timeout, I grab her, I hold her, I'm explaining to her, like, it's okay, you're right there, I'm right here. Why can't I be with you, Mommy? Why can't I be with you? You're just right there. And I was like, pardon my French, I was like, shit, you know what? We're just gonna do this. We're just gonna do it. We're gonna do it. I got out my highlighters out of my bag. I got, paper. She sat on my lap for the entire second half of that game while I called the game, coloring on old box scores. And there might have been like 10 suckers involved as well. And then that game went into overtime. And I'm like, I can't believe this day is never gonna end. And I felt so unprofessional that I had my daughter on my lap. There's all men on that row. There's no women. Like, I was like, I made the wrong choice. I made the wrong choice. I shouldn't have done that. That was unprofessional. People are going to see this. It's going to be bad. And then I was like, you know what? F it. Like, I did the right thing. I felt like my daughter needed me. She was great. Mark supported me. All the guys in the truck supported me. They all had my back. It worked out. And you know what? That is a moment I will never forget. And afterwards, she looked at me. She wanted to take a picture. It's a really cute little picture. She did this. Center court. Like, I don't know where she got this. And I'm like coming off of like an hour and a half of being super stressed out and anxious. And she looks at me and she goes, I want to be just like you when I grow up, Mommy. And I was like, I did the right thing. I did the right thing. So that's how you handle it. Those little moments get you through all the other ones.
Yeah, no, thank you for being so transparent and vulnerable and to be on the stage and to share that. So thank you. If we could give that response another round of applause. This one is for all three of you, whoever wants to tackle it first. What has been the most rewarding about each of your positions? What do you love most about it?
I have a hard time sitting still, and my favorite report card from when I was little says she talks too much and wanders. I don't know what was wrong with that, but I do still wander, you guys. So I love my job because I get to wander and do things, and I get to talk a lot too, but I get to create things. And in my job, like, I'm in business and I'm in basketball. Mostly I solve problems, and I get to do something different every day. So one day it might be that I'm working on building an arena was one of the most transformational things that you can do for a city. We created an economic renaissance. Saving the team almost killed me, but like just being part of that process was unbelievable when you're like at work and there's, I had like a line of people out the door quitting every day, and the U-Haul trucks were lined up to take the team to Seattle, and we somehow fought back and saved the team. That you don't get to do that. You don't get to do the arena. I get to go over to basketball operations, watch this superstar take down players. I love it, and I get to do something different every day. So I've been really blessed. I love the community work. I love talking at events like this and uplifting women and sharing my story, because I feel like the only reason I'm here is because my mother didn't work. And I didn't know that model. And when I graduated from law school, I went to a law firm, and I had a mentor, and she uplifted me. And it's, I like the idea that, when you see it, you can be it. So I'm just very blessed that I get to wander and I get to talk a lot.
I get to walk into a gym with balls and just play. Like, the best job in the world is being a player and playing a sport. To get this far, you have to love it and have passion. And I can't imagine doing a job that I don't love to do. And sometimes I'm tired and exhausted, but I still have the passion. I'm not playing anymore, but I love to coach it. But we get to go in and play a game and compete. That's something that's ingrained in me. I love to compete. I love to work hard, and my team's better than yours. I like to do that. And another thing is all the personalities. You can talk about this too, all of the fun times you had in the locker rooms with your teammates. Now, I'm not in the locker rooms with these guys all the time, only pregame. But on the court, it's a lot of personalities, boy. I tell you. It's super entertaining. You learn a lot. You teach a whole hell of a lot. And it's like little brothers. And then some of the guys are closer to my age, and it's just yeah, let's go grab a bite to eat, So you get to know these amazing people on such a high level and know what's going on in their life. And when you see them do well or get that contract extension, right? When you know all the work that went behind it, it's like a proud mama bear moment. I don't have a child, I have a dog. But you didn't ask about my dog, so I think
we can talk about the dog.
Baby. Her dog is Baby, by the way.
Yeah, her name is Baby. I think they had better stories than me, but no, it really is the people and the fact that I'm still just around the game and being able to coach it and compete.
Yeah, kind of a personal question. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to. But as a woman, obviously coaching a bunch of guys, does it ever get personal in terms of you wanting to play Mama Bear really and talking about relationships and maybe what they're doing on and off the
You
court?
don't want to know any of that.
No, I don't want to know that. But for
Record.
you, at what do you turn into like a mentor to these guys when it comes to
Honestly,
the personal?
like, as long as everything is respectful, there's no limits to like anything. Like I remember a kid, like, we drafted a kid who's like 19. Like, that's a baby. It's kind of like, and then there could be someone that's married. They're not. Like, anything goes. I've had players talk to me about dating or family or troubles they may, or I'm mad at coach or anything. And I want to be open in that space for them, non-judgmental. If I don't like it, I tell them. I think they love that I'm honest with them. I am. I'm honest. I'm very honest because I do care. I played. I was them. Like, I genuinely care about these men. I care about them, their family, their life, what they're doing. So when you ask me a question, I'm going to tell you. So, no, some get real comfortable. Some get really but it's okay. It's great because I give them that space, too, because part of it is for them to feel that comfortable, I have to be vulnerable, too. So I will open up with certain things with them, too.
It's that they're so young, too, when they come into the league. And when I started, I want to say that the players were my age, and now their mothers are younger than me. So you see, I've seen an entire generation of players come through, and they really need support. And, like, for me, I do a lot of player development, so I like to say, like, off court, like, my phone is always available. We just brought this Greek player over from Greece, and obviously, he even just called about, like, the neighborhoods or, like, the food or, they're lost and they get traded and they go overnight to a different market. So it's a challenging life. And they need all the support that they can in our organization. That's what we do.
Okay. Repeat the question so I make sure I'm not rambling. I forget
I kind of forgot it too. It was, what's the most rewarding?
most rewarding part of my job. There's so many rewarding parts. I mean, first of all, it's a blessing to be around the sport because kind of like what Lindsey was talking about earlier, like being in the locker room. I don't miss playing basketball. Like, I don't miss it at all because I played like a raving lunatic and my body is suffering now. But honestly, I miss the relationships. I miss the experience of being on a team with people that you have the same goal, you have the same investment into the goal, you spend your time together. They're your like family. In your own where not every team works out that way, but when you have that, it's so special. Like, I miss that. But I would say now for me, the most rewarding part of my job, and it probably is going to sound really silly, is I love what I do, and like I don't pay a whole lot of attention to social media. That's something that as I've gotten older, I've realized that the benefits, that just doesn't benefit me in that way anymore. I use it as a different tool now. So I learned a long time ago in this business, it's really hard to turn your ears off to what people might be sitting on their phone wanting to say to you on any given night, however many beers deep. The biggest rewarding part for me is when I like see people and they're like, I really enjoy, like, you make me understand the game. Like, I watch with my husband now, or I watch with my boyfriend, and like, I get it now. Like, that to me is rewarding. I'm like, I'm doing something here. Like, okay, someone understands what a pick and roll is the right way, or like, what, like, that to me is the rewarding part. And I think when it comes down to it, like, I couldn't envision coaching myself, because that's a whole nother world, and it's a different part of the thing. But I really do love that part of it, of kind of the teaching and the learning. And I think the game is beautiful. And to be able to paint it and explain it and make people understand it, like, that to me is rewarding. That's what I love about it. Yeah.
And you really do it so poetically. So thank you for that.
Mark's poetic. I can't keep up with like all of his like
words,
his words.
vocabulary is out of control.
Can I tell you a secret? Everyone thinks that he does this on purpose. It's not. He has no control over it. Nothing is planned. No, and I think it's one of the most fascinating stories. He grew up in Canada, and his dad growing up did words with him and his brother, who also is a radio broadcaster for the Toronto Raptors. And they had to learn a new word every week, and they had to learn it and use it in their vocabulary on a regular basis. So this is just who Mark is. This is not a show of how he's doing it when the cameras roll. Dude talks like that all the time. And like, it's so funny because there's somewhere I'm like, gonna write that one down.
Yeah, I was like Googling, constantly on Google. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I was just given the 5-minute mark, so I'm gonna just jump to this last question, and I'll have you guys all answer it. We're talking about mentorship and how important it is. Can you guys each tell me about a mentor you've had in your life at one point, and how they were able to impact your career? Who gave you that career advice?
Nancy Miller. She's not here right now, but oh, you are. There she is. Nancy Miller in my story. She becomes bigger and bigger. I spoke most recently. I said, Nancy, you took half the speech up. So I come from a very traditional Greek family. My mother stayed home. She was unbelievable. Staying home is the hardest thing you'll ever do. So I don't want to belittle that at all. It's, she cooked, she cleaned, she took care of us all. And I lived in a complex, in a Greek community. My big fat Greek wedding was me. And I didn't think it was funny at all when I saw it, because I was like, this is not fair in life. And I went to college, and then I was a challenging student. I went to law school. My father, I think he thought we would all get better husbands if we had law degrees. There are 4 sisters. We all got law degrees. And I got married, and I moved to Sacramento, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I went to work for Nancy Miller. And in Nancy Miller, I found something I'd never seen before. Nancy was married. She was a named partner at a law firm, which did not exist at the time. She had 2 children, which she left everywhere. Nancy, every day at 3 o'clock, would be like, where are Nancy's kids? So we'd have
Do you
to
know
go
where they
find
are
them.
right now, Nancy?
But what I saw in her was something that I thought I could become. I thought, oh my God, I can work. I can have a career. I can have children. And that really gave me the belief that these things were possible. And then opportunity knocked, and I was lucky. But I always say this, like, find somebody you can look up to. And that's why in my organization, I think it's really important that I hope that I'm that to people, that my door's open, that they can come and talk to me about, like, there are challenges when you're a woman and you're having a family or you're traveling all the time. Those things are not easy. So I really believe in strong mentorship, and Miller's still one of my best friends to this day.
I'm glad that you're here.
So whenever I do have children, I'll be in your office a lot.
Yes.
Just keep a bassinet in there, huh? It's fine. It's kind of interesting. This is really sidebar. I know we have 4 minutes now, but at this point in the summer, Coach Brown allows people, if you have kids, whatever, you can bring them in. So we have a lot of new babies, and it's really funny. I was walking around with someone else's little 6-month-old baby just on the hip, walking down the court, yelling, talking, and Mike was like, that's a good look for you. And I'm like, just wait until it's mine. Like, in The Hangover, how they had the baby? And he's like, and you're still gonna be bossing us around. I was like, yeah. No, I mean, it's interesting. Like, I'm talking to my boss and we're joking about this, right? Like, he's like, this will be great. So anyway, mentors. So with me, I was kind of asked this question recently, and I'm going to give the same answer because it came up to me. I have these 3 people that stood out to me. First, I would say my dad is, he was the first on his side to go to college, hard worker, and that was his thing. Work hard, work hard. He kind of pushed me in that. And everything you do, you work hard. And I think that I got a lot of that. Maybe it's natural, but from him in that, of just kind of being proud of me and pushing me in that way. My mom is a little different. She's more like, if you need to cry, I got you, I love you, 1,000 kisses before you go to bed, like, love yourself, be happy. And that is big, right? Like, my dad's like, work hard. My mom's like, but you have to be happy, right? So I felt like I had a good balance with that. I mean, even now when I talk to her, are you happy? Are you good? And sometimes you forget when you're traveling and working so hard. It's like, yeah, I am. I'm just tired. And then my last one, I'd say, was my college coach, Gail Guest, of course, who's now retired. I just remember I was going through a lot, and I was Superwoman. I could do anything. I didn't need help. I can solve every problem. Like, that was me. And I just remember I was struggling and I was crumbling at one point. And the simplest thing, she looked at me, she's like, when you need help, you need to ask for it. And that to me still sticks with me as something so, it wasn't hard. Now I do it. I ask for it all the time. But for me, that one point in my life, it was very difficult to do. So now when I'm moving in my career and doing things, I ask. I'm not going to pretend I know how to do something I don't know. I don't understand. Sit here and explain it. Or where can I find the answer? Help me do this. I'm not ashamed to not know the answer of everything when at one point I thought I had to know everything. So those are three that kind of stuck out to me that still, like, every single day I kind of hear everybody's message in my head.
Really have like a traditional form of mentor. Certainly not a woman, which, you know, is interesting. I would say that my high school basketball coach is one of the most important people in my life. When he started working, he was also the math teacher. I was a freshman. I was 13, and he was 24. So like just started teaching, and is interviewed to be the basketball coach for the girls basketball team at our high school. And it's like there's 350 kids there, and they like come in hard hitting and like all this stuff. Like, and he's like a 24-year-old kid like going like, what? These people are crazy. Like, what do they think they got here? Like, like a Olympic team or something. And he very quickly saw in me that I was a little crazy and that I needed direction, because I played incredibly hard. I just needed somebody that could kind of harness it. And so he believed in me from the very beginning. And it wasn't a warm, cuddly mentorship, we'll say that. It was a push yourself to the limits, get in your face, scream at you type mentorship. And to this day, like if my dad had not have been alive, I would have asked him to walk me down the aisle. Like he became somebody that for me made me see what I was capable of. And he did it, he pushed just enough, never too far. And then I was really lucky in college. My head coach was Mark French, UC Santa Barbara. He was there for years and years and years. We called him Big Daddy. He's like a 6'8", really skinny, lanky white dude. And so Big Daddy was a very appropriate name for him. And like he texted me the other day, actually, and I haven't returned his text message. So I need to do that. The most important thing that he taught me was about balance. When I was being recruited by all these schools that I didn't know anything about, Oregon was like, oh, you get this, you get that, you get the Nikes, you get this. And Coach French was like, I do study hall with you guys every night for 4 hours. And he invested in us as people, as students, as human beings, not as athletes. And the most important thing that he pushed to us was about having balance in your life. That basketball was a tool. It was not it was not the end all be all. It wasn't, this vehicle that was going to drive you. It was a tool to get you to other places in your life. And if you did it the right way and had balance, it would be really good back to you. So he was divorced. He went through like, it's my whole life. It's my whole life. He lost his marriage through it. He had his kids part-time, and he was very honest and forthright. And he was adult with us, and he really pushed public speaking. He made us go out and do public speaking. He made us do work in the community. He pushed the human element, and so through him as a mentor, I understood that basketball was just a mechanism. He was teaching us about life, and I'm really grateful for the lessons that he taught. Yeah.
Okay, well, there you have it. Let's give these beautiful women a round of applause one last time. Thank you to SheShares for all the work as well. Thank you.